action. CBS presents Lonesome Dove.
And even the survivors of battle face a terrible toll. Mutiny, Chapter 5 in The Great War and the Shaping of the 20th Century.
Stay tuned. The Great War is coming up next.
Coming on the American Experience. The greatest invasion in military history. 5,000 ships, 150,000 men.
Rank had nothing to do with anything. You were just clinging. Just a matter of survival. Get behind something, get off that beach.
The turning point of World War II. D-Day on the American Experience.
Experience D-Day tonight at 9:30.
They were our fathers and our husbands.
They gave me messages for their wives and sweethearts. 2 of them had babies they'd never seen.
They were our sisters and our daughters.
How could I explain to her why her daddy wouldn't send her another letter?
Pay tribute to America's fallen heroes in one glorious night. Colin Powell, Tony Danza, James Earl Jones, and Ossie Davis star in the National Memorial Day Concert.
Enjoy this National Memorial Day concert tonight at 8.
Next time on Nova, a 5th prostitute is murdered in Rochester. As investigators comb through the clues, what dark personality will they find? Time is running out for the next victim unless the FBI can penetrate the mind of a serial killer. Next time on Nova.
Tune in Tuesday night at 9 for Nova.
We came, we saw, and we captured everything in our art, architecture, ads, you name it.
What had been created was the distinctive American personality.
And each image says something about us.
The culture of spectacle and excess.
Join art critic Robert Hughes for his look at how we look and draw your own picture. American Visions, a portrait of who we are.
Don't miss American Visions, Wednesday night at 9.
Enter the world of National Geographic. Alaska. It's been called America's last frontier, a faraway land of untamed wilderness and awesome beauty. But it takes a true pioneer to survive here. Rugged, determined, and strong. Meet those who are taking the challenge and find out how they brave Alaska on the world of National Geographic.
Watch National Geographic Tuesday night at 8.
In the fabulous 50s, what did Americans want most?
They wanted cars.
Ever made love in a car?
Ba-ba-ba-boom.
America wanted new cars.
More and more cars.
The more you had, the better, you know.
Boy, did they want cars.
See the USA in your
Chevrolet. See the USA and what the car craze did to it. America on Wheels, Episode 2.
Oh, really?
Join us for America on Wheels tonight at 6. You're enjoying viewer-supported television, channels 45 and 49.
In June of 1917, Siegfried Sassoon, the British soldier poet, was in the south of England, recovering from a bullet wound.
Aunt Evelyn's Delphinium spires were blue against the distant blue of the sky, and the shadows of Irish yews were lengthening across the lawn. Out in France, the convoys of wounded and gassed were being carried into the field hospitals. And up in the line, the slaughter went on because no one knew how to stop it. Men are beginning to ask for what they're fighting, Dottrell had written in his last letter. Could I be blamed for being one of those at home who are asking the same question?
This program was made possible by a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities and by the Arthur Vining Davis Foundations. Funding for this program was also provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you.
In 1916, the only major sea engagement of the First World War, the Battle of Jutland, was fought to a draw. That same year, the British Minister of War, Lord Kitchener, was lost at sea. 85-year-old Franz Joseph, Emperor of Austria, died. The Russian monk Rasputin was murdered by members of the Tsar's own family. 1917 began with bleak prospects for the Allies. In the East, the Russian army was nearly a spent force. In the West, massive bloodletting had taken its toll on the French and British armies. Then there was the onslaught of a bitter winter. For many, the limits of endurance had been reached.
January 4th, 1917. My own dear mother. Since I set foot on Calais Quays, I have not had dry feet. We were let down gently into the real thing, mud. It has penetrated now into that sanctuary, my sleeping bag, and that holy of holies, my pajamas. I chose a servant for myself yesterday, not for his profile, nor yet his clean hands, but for his excellence in bayonet work. I censored hundreds of letters yesterday, and the hope of peace was in every one.
Wilfred Owen was a young poet just finding his voice when war broke out. He marched off to battle with a romantic view of war common among the young.
Oh, meet it is, and passing sweet, to live in peace with others, but sweeter still and far more meet to die in war for brothers.
The English officer class came to the war as innocents. It was a frightful shock to them to discover that the sort of their imagination of war, which had been fed by the classical literature of war, was incorrect. The war wasn't brave and heroic. It was pretty horrible and nasty and dirty, and you were more concerned about keeping dry and keeping warm than you were about closing with the enemy.
Owen was commissioned a second lieutenant and sent to join the 2nd Manchester Regiment on the Somme. He entered the trenches in the middle of the worst winter in memory.
My own dear mother. I can see no excuse for deceiving you about these last 4 days. I have not been at the front. I have been in front of it. I held an advanced post in the middle of no man's land. The Germans knew we were staying there and decided we shouldn't. Those 50 hours were the agony of my happy life. I nearly broke down and let myself drown in the water that was slowly rising over my knees. I suppose I can endure cold and fatigue and the face-to-face death as well as another. But extra for me, there is the universal pervasion of ugliness. The distortion of the dead, whose unburyable bodies sit outside the dugouts. In poetry we call them glorious, but to sit with them all day, all night, and a week later to come back and find them still sitting there in motionless groups. That is what saps the soldierly spirit.
Many of the soldiers had to cope with images that wouldn't go away. Many of these parts of human bodies were actually used to shore up the trench system itself. Some soldiers found it humorous to hang their water canteens on a protruding arm or a protruding leg. These were not people who were disrespectful of the dead. They were living with the dead. One can imagine the possibilities of becoming numb to such images, but those who couldn't turn off their feelings, internalized them, brought them home with them, lived with them, dreamt about them, and went mad because of them.
While Wilfred Owen was sleeping, a shell hit his trench, blasting him into the air and killing a fellow officer. Owen spent days trapped near the dismembered body. When finally relieved, he was found to be confused, trembling, and behaving strangely.
My very dear sister, you must not entertain the least concern about me. You know, it was not the Germans that worked me up, nor the explosives, but it was living so long by poor old Cock Robin, as we used to call Second Lieutenant Kroger, who lay not only nearby, but in various places around and about, if you understand.
Owen was diagnosed as having shell shock and sent home. He had lasted only 4 months. Shell shock represented a kind of mutiny, a personal withdrawal from an intolerable reality. Not all, or even most soldiers, suffered from shell shock. But those who did were sobering examples of what mechanized warfare could do to human beings.
Rifleman Arthur Russell was, or had been, a magnificent specimen of manhood, 6 feet tall. There was not a mark on him, yet he was helpless as a child. When I returned about a month later, I found Russell trying to walk. His speech was slowly returning, a slow, halting speech full of stammers. But I doubt if he ever again became a fully fit man.
The symptoms were often tied to an event on the battlefield. The soldier who bayoneted an enemy in the face developed a facial tic. This man responded to nothing, except the word bomb, which sent him scurrying under the bed. This French soldier became hysterical at the sight of an officer's red hat. Treatment for most enlisted men involved rest and recuperation.
There is some extraordinary material about the way in which soldiers who were incapable of acting were taught first to sew, then to weave, then to farm, then to carry a gun, and then to shoot it again. As if they're moving from a kind of feminine recuperation to masculine combat status, and that they can go back to the men's war.
The worst cases left doctors grasping for solutions. Electric shock treatment was applied to thousands. Some improved. For the rest, the pain of treatment only added to their misery. But this was not the only experimental method of treating shell shock. Far from the Western Front, in a place where the grass was still green and trees still had leaves, doctors developed an innovative method of treating shell shock. The patients were officers like Wilfred Owen.
My own dear mother. We left Netley on Monday morning. I woke up as we were rounding the coast by Dunbar. The castle looked more than ever a hallucination with the morning sun behind it. A taxi brought me up here about 2.5 miles from the town. There is nothing very attractive about the place. It is far too full of officers, some of whom I know.
Owen's journey took him here, to the outskirts of Edinburgh, Scotland, to a place called Craiglockhart. In this former sanitarium, doctors attempted the emotional repair of British officers using a technique only recently pioneered by Freud, psychotherapy. Others called it the talking cure. For Owen, it began to gradually take effect.
My dearest mother, last night I had a consultation with Dr. Brock from 11 till midnight. I still have disastrous dreams, but they are taking on a more civilian character. Motor accidents and so on. Nothing more to tell, I think. Ever your own, Wilfred.
It was here that Owen first read a book of verse by one of Britain's most controversial soldiers, Siegfried Sassoon.
I have just been reading Siegfried Sassoon and am feeling at a very high pitch of emotion. Nothing like his trench life sketches has ever been written or ever will be written. Shakespeare reads vapid after these.
It's bad to think of war, when thoughts you gagged all day come back to scare you. And it's been proved that soldiers don't go mad unless they've lost control of ugly thoughts that drive them out to jabber among the trees. They'll soon forget their haunted nights, their dreams that trip with murder, and they'll be proud of glorious war that shattered all their pride.
Siegfried Sassoon survived some of the fiercest fighting on the Western Front. His actions at the Somme had earned him the Military Cross for gallantry and the nickname Mad Jack.
While I was running, I pulled the safety pin out of a Mills bomb. My right hand being loaded, I did the same for the left. Just before I arrived at the top, I threw my 2 bombs. Quite unexpectedly, I found myself looking down into a trench with a great many Germans in it. Fortunately for me, they were already retreating. It had not occurred to them that they were being attacked by a single fool.
Mad Jack had many close encounters with death at the front. But the war hit hardest when his younger brother was killed at Gallipoli, a loss which devastated his family. Sassoon's friend, Robert Graves, witnessed the depth of this grief when he visited the Sassoon home while the 2 men were on leave together. Graves later recounted in his war novel, Goodbye to All That, what it was like to stay in the dead brother's room.
The National Weather Service in Pittsburgh has issued a flash weather effective until 8 p.m. for the following times. In East Central Ohio, for Over the time, we're going through the land area. Some small streams have already been reported on the banks in Columbia County. Flooding is also reported on the bridge across California and Butte County. Many streams across Allegheny and Westmoreland County will need backfill. The additional rainfall will worsen the flooding and push small streams and creeks out of the banks and also flood low-lying areas and some basements. The PA National Weather Service in Pittsburgh has issued a flash flood warning effective to 8 p.m. for the following locations of research in Ohio, Columbia County, and Jefferson County, and western Pennsylvania, Allegheny County, and Westmoreland County.
I'm leaving this place. It's worse than France.
Both Sassoon and Graves returned to the front. In April of 1917, Sassoon took a sniper's bullet through the shoulder while leading an attack. Even after his physical wound had begun to heal, it was apparent that Sassoon was still not well. As with his mother, the dead were visiting him at night.
When the lights are out, and the ward is half shadow and half glowing firelight, then the horrors come creeping across the floor. A livid, grinning face with bristly mustache peers at me over the edge of my bed, hands clutching at my sheets. There is a hole in his jaw, and the blood spreads across his face like the ink spilt on blotting paper. I wish I could sleep.
These were the images, the fantastic, monstrous images that haunted their dreams. These are people who were victims of an appalling kind of war, but we must never forget that they were also executioners. They had killed, they had maimed, they had been responsible for the mutilation of men on the other side of the line. How to cope with that responsibility is something very hard for anyone to imagine. We mustn't judge them for this. Many of them were under the age of 25. This was their baptism of fire in a moral sense.
Sassoon's moral baptism convinced him to take a stand against the war. As brave as any action he had taken in combat, he sent a letter to his commanding officer and made it public.
I believe that this war, upon which I entered as a war of defense and liberation, has now become a war of aggression and conquest. I have seen and endured the sufferings of the troops, and I can no longer be a party to prolonging those sufferings for ends which I believe to be evil and unjust.
The Army had a problem. What to do with a clearly decorated, brave, honorable man who reached a conclusion that the war was dishonorable? What will they do with him? The answer was very subtle. It was to claim that anyone who found that the war was mad must be mad himself.
Instead of being court-martialed, Sassoon was quietly shipped off to Craiglockhart. Here he met Wilfred Owen. The two men became friends and spent hours discussing each other's work. Between them, they produced some of the most important war literature of the 20th century.
I am banished from the patient men who fight. They smote my heart to pity, built my pride. Shoulder to aching shoulder, side by side, they trudged away from life's broad wheels of light. Their wrongs were mine, and ever in my sight they went arrayed in honor. But they died, not one by one, and mutinous I cried to those who sent them out into the night.
At the end of his stay at Craiglockhart, Siegfried Sassoon ended his mutiny. He decided to return to the front. not for the sake of his country, but for the men he had left behind.
Love drove me to rebel. Love drives me back to grope with them through hell. And in their tortured eyes, I stand forgiven.
Wilfred Owen was also well enough for his war to go on. He left Craiglockhart on November 3rd, 1917. He had exactly 1 year and 1 day to live. Mutiny wore many faces in 1917. In France, one belonged to a general who pushed too hard. Another to a corporal who had suffered too much.
What a sorry scene. 7 straight days of insomnia, fatigue, thirst, and sheer agony have transformed these healthy young men, these proud, disciplined companies, into a ragged band of laggards.
Corporal Louis Bartas was among the survivors of the meat grinder called Verdun. A spectacular grumbler, he saw himself as fighting 2 wars, one against Germany, the other against his own officers and their petty commands.
Louis Bartas wrote a diary during the war, and it's an extraordinary testimony about a certain sort of soldier, absolutely against the war, pacifist, who tried to maintain at least some parcel of humanity in the brutality of the war.
Bartas cared little for promotions. His interest was in staying alive. That was no easy task, as he also fought at the second great battle of 1916, the Somme.
In one night, more cannon shells were fired than in one of Napoleon's campaigns. These men, exhausted, poorly fed, stuck in the muddy trenches, took the order to attack with murmurs. Not everybody can be a hero.
One would-be hero was Robert Nivelle, the new commander of the French forces. Dashing, self-assured, and vain, Nivelle promised new tactics to break out of the trenches and win the war.
Our method has been tried out. I can assure you that victory is certain.
What is astonishing is that he succeeded in convincing politicians and generals alike. Very strange now to think about that, but there was an optimism at the end of 1916, beginning of 17, about the ability, the French army's ability to break through.
To guarantee his victory, Nivelle embarked on a massive buildup of arms and materiel.
I insist that the stamp of violence, of brutality and of rapidity must characterize the offensive. The greater their numbers, the greater my victory. We will win it all within 24 to 48 hours.
Many were caught up in Nivelle's bravado, but not Louis Bartas.
We had read to us an order from the great executioner, General Nivelle, saying among other absurdities that the hour of sacrifice has arrived. No one was enthused by this lecture of patriotic gibberish.
Adieu, la vie, adieu l'amour, adieu toutes les femmes. C'est bien fini, c'est pour toujours de cette guerre infâme. C'est à grave, sur le plateau, on se fait trouer la peau. On est tous condamnés, on est des sacrifiés.
On April 16th, Nivelle's forces massed on the fields of Chemin-des-Dames, where the ladies of the court of Louis XIV had once promenaded. Here were gathered 700,000 French soldiers, and on the ridge above them, 600,000 Germans. As morning broke, the French soldiers went over the top, hoping that this would be the decisive battle of the war. The plan called for advancing 6 miles. By sundown, the troops had moved only 600 yards. Ignoring his promise to stop the offensive, if not successful within 2 days, Nivelle pushed ahead for 10. 200,000 men were killed or wounded, and still no breakthrough.
After a few hours, after the beginning of the offensive, soldiers considered that the offensive was a failure. It was perfectly clear to them that it was a failure.
By now, the war had claimed 1.5 million French soldiers, the equivalent of 1 casualty for every minute of the war. The survivors had reached the breaking point. Soldiers going back into the lines began buying like sheep being led to slaughter. Then, 2 weeks after the offensive, the only full-scale mutiny on the Western Front broke out. At first, groups of men, then entire units, refused to re-enter the trenches.
There would be very emotional scenes between the officers and the spokesmen of the men. I don't mean grand opera, I mean that there was a very great depth of emotion on both sides because, well, you can imagine the officers, every officer's worst nightmare is that his men won't obey him.
One soldier caught up in this officer's nightmare was the naturally rebellious Louis Bartas.
Our captain arrived on the scene with a police escort. He tried to speak, but his first words were drowned out by the crowd. Seething with rage, but powerless, he ordered a roll call. A crowd of several hundred soldiers crowded around and mocked these orders. For an hour they hurled abuse at him. Several shots were fired into the air.
More units began refusing to return to the front lines. In Bartas's regiment, there was talk of replacing their officers.
To my amazement, they offered me as a replacement for the colonel. Imagine me, an obscure peasant, commander of the 296th Regiment. I refused, since I had no wish to be tied to an execution post.
Word of the mutiny quickly spread to Paris. There, women working in the armaments industry joined the soldiers on strike. They demanded better treatment for themselves and for their husbands and brothers at the front.
The soldiers who mutinied
were mutinying not so much to end the war as to demand that the war be conducted differently. These soldiers were looking to the state and saying, we are citizens. You cannot simply hurl us at machine guns and blow us up. We're citizens of a republic. We have rights. I think something very similar was going on with these women munition workers. They link their own conditions in the factory with what they perceive to be an unfair burden of sacrifice on their own husbands and brothers.
The unrest in Paris only heightened the fear about the mutiny at the front. If the men refused to fight, the Germans would overrun the country and win the war. Fortunately for France, it was not that kind of mutiny.
It was a sort of oddly peaceful strike, given that the soldiers all had weapons, that they could have turned them on their officers. They didn't. They sort of politely said, we've had enough. The war's gone on too long, too many of us have been killed, we never get anywhere. We don't want to attack any longer. We'll defend the country, but we won't attack.
Half of the French army took part in the mutiny, but the Germans never found out. The best-kept secret of the war.
They don't try to fraternize with the enemy. They try to explain. It's a sort of general strike. They try to negotiate a new balance of power between them and officers, between what they want and what is expected from them. In a way, these soldiers are not soldiers, they are citizens.
The mutinies by France's citizen soldiers worked. Nivelle was replaced by Philippe Pétain, who immediately improved leave arrangements and living conditions. Even more important, Pétain ordered a stop to the pointless assaults against the German lines. We will wait, he told his generals, for tanks and the Americans, who had just declared war against Germany. But Pétain also dealt out punishment to the mutineers. Hundreds were given prison sentences. 49 of the ringleaders were shot. Back home in Paris, women factory workers won shorter hours and better working conditions. The would-be hero, Robert Nivelle, never accepted responsibility for his failure and faded into obscurity. Corporal Louis Barthas managed to escape punishment entirely and eventually succeeded in his fondest ambition. He survived the war. Of all the mutinies against war in 1917, the largest was in Russia, where not only an army, but an entire nation rebelled. The Russian army began the war as the world's largest, but it was ill-equipped and incompetently led. Half of its army would be wounded, killed, or never heard from again. "This is not war," said one officer. "This is slaughter."
The winter was severe, and life in the trenches unbearable. Death was a welcome visitor. There were many cases of men snowed under and frozen to death. But we were patient, like true children of Mother Russia.
Maria Bashkireva, known as Yashka, was the most unusual of soldiers. Desperate to escape an abusive husband and deeply patriotic, she petitioned the Tsar to join the army.
Do you know what war is? I asked myself. It's no woman's job. Are you strong enough in body to shed blood and endure the privations? And I found strength enough in me to answer yes.
To know Yashka, one writer said, is to know Russia. By 1917, Yashka, like many Russian soldiers, was struggling with questions about the war.
How long shall we continue this fighting? And what are we fighting for was on the lips of everybody. It was the third winter, and there was no end in sight.
It was also a winter of discontent for the people of Petrograd, Russia's capital. The grim mood was fueled by freezing homes and hungry stomachs, and a lack of faith in the Russian government. Tsar Nicholas II had chosen not to rule in Petrograd, but to be with his troops at the front.
The Tsar's decision to take over the command of the army was a fatal one, because from this point on he would be blamed personally for the losses at the front. And nearly all of the government warned him not to.
The Tsar was also being blamed for the suffering at home. A shortage of bread was moving the women of Petrograd toward revolt.
Politics is one part of it, and the pressures of daily life are another part. And the stresses of having to stand in bread lines for hours and hours and hours, when it's freezing cold. The winter of 1917 was the coldest winter on record. Pressures of exhaustion, war weariness, a sense that the burdens of the war were coming down unduly heavily on them, and that things just could not continue this way.
March 8th was International Women's Day. The day began with a traditional parade. But as the women marched through the city, their parade turned into an angry demonstration. Men rushed from the factories to join them. Together, they occupied the center of the city for 3 straight days. "We are only asking for bread," they shouted, "and an end to the war."
The chief of the military district could not cope with the situation. But then, on the 26th of February, he effectively turned what was a chaotic bread riot into a revolution by ordering his troops to fire on the unarmed crowds.
Ordered to fire on civilians, soldiers instead shot their officers and joined the rioters. Soon the leading figures of the Tsar's government were running for their lives.
Caps are thrown into the air. Everywhere there are automobiles and crowds. The arsenal has been taken. They say that about 20,000 automatic pistols alone have been handed out. There is a lot of firing on the streets, but it all seems to be for show.
Sergei Dmitrovich Mstislavsky was one of the first to revolt. Although a commissioned officer of the Russian army, Mstislavsky had long dreamed of overthrowing the Tsar. But like other would-be revolutionaries, he was taken by complete surprise when the moment came.
The revolution found us like the foolish virgins in the gospel, fast asleep.
Leaderless, the revolt took on a life of its own. Police stations were torched by roaming crowds. Prisons were stormed, their inmates released. The socialists, seizing the opportunity, hastily organized in the midst of chaos. Mstislavsky was charged with defending the city against the threat of loyal Tsarist troops.
Our machine guns have been hoisted on the palace roof, but it's all for show since they still don't work. A huge crowd is reportedly gathering in front of the government alcohol warehouse. If they break in, the revolution will drown in a sea of vodka. Those who receive orders do not fulfill them. Those who act without orders. And after all, could it have been otherwise during a revolution?
Orders issued from the front were even more pointless. Unable to stop the revolution by decree, the Tsar boarded his imperial train to return to Petrograd. It was stopped by revolutionary units of his own army. There, his generals convinced him, for the sake of Russia, to abdicate.
The miracle had happened. Tsarism, which enslaved us and thrived on the blood and marrow of the toiler, had fallen. There were tears of joy, embraces, dancing. It all seemed a dream, a wonderful dream.
Everyone was amazed at the suddenness of the revolt. The slowest people on earth, one man said, had done the quickest thing in history. Emblems of the 300-year-old monarchy were torn down. Socialist democracy was proclaimed on Russian soil. Euphoria reigned on the streets.
Dare I confess it, I envied all of them to the point of pain. All those happy people with shining, crystal-clear gazes who so sincerely believed it was all over. As I was listening to another succession of orators, barking the same sounds about liberty from the podium, suddenly the clear, quiet, and hard words of my wife came to my mind. Over? Oh no, it can't be over. Not enough blood has been shed.
The man who launched the Second Russian Revolution was not there to witness the first. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, leader of the Bolshevik wing of the socialist movement, had been in exile in Switzerland. To him, the fall of Tsarist Russia was just one step in the creation of a new world order. He telegrammed his instructions to his followers in Petrograd. Our tactics, complete mistrust, no support for the new government. We especially distrust Kerensky. Alexander Kerensky, a combative lawyer, was the leading figure of the fragile democracy Lenin was determined to destroy.
Kerensky was a young man in 1917, 35. He was a great orator. He was the darling of the Petrograd intelligentsia. And he saw himself as a man destined to lead Russia out of chaos to freedom.
Kerensky believed his best hope for survival rested with the army. If he could win a major battle at the front, he could drive the Germans to the peace table and his political enemies, like Lenin, from the streets. But by now the army had deteriorated to little more than debating societies. In desperation, Kerensky resorted to a symbolic gesture. He would use Russia's women to shame the men into fighting. special unit was created. The Women's Battalion of Death. Its leader, Yashka.
There were nearly 2,000 signed pledges. I marched the recruits to 4 barber shops, where barbers closely cropped one girl's head after another. Giggling was strictly forbidden. As soon as one of them disobeyed an order, I quickly removed her uniform and let her go.
Under Yashka's strict discipline, the ranks quickly dwindled from 2,000 peasant women to a loyal remnant of 300. In June, her soldiers were sent to the front to take part in Kerensky's gamble. At first, the Russian offensive was a success. But when the Germans counterattacked, the Russian army crumbled. To stem the retreat, Yashka's battalion was thrown into the battle.
The colonel gave the signal, but the men on my right and to the left would not move. We decided to advance in order to shame the men. Some of my girls were killed outright. Many were wounded.
The morale of the army collapsed, desertions speeded up, soldiers fraternized with the enemy. Trains going back from the front were full of soldiers joyriding their way home. The government at this point had no authority left. The military command had no authority left.
Kerensky had rolled the dice and lost. The crowds who had once cheered him were now cheering Lenin's message of bread, peace, and land.
What we have to appreciate is that the longer the war went on, the more and more the simplicity of the message of the Bolsheviks, bread, peace, and land, the more attractive it became. And what the Bolsheviks did was simply wait. Lenin liked to say that power fell into his hand the way in which a ripe fruit falls off a tree.
In late October, the Bolsheviks were ready to act. The plan included capturing the Winter Palace. Here, Kerensky and other members of his provisional government made their last stand, defended by a handful of soldiers and members of the Women's Battalion. Sergei Mstislavsky helped plan the Bolshevik takeover.
The palace had then been cordoned off, and the battleship Aurora was already moored just beneath its windows. It certainly was not within the power of the Women's Battalion to deflect the blow, which was even now being aimed at the palace.
In years to come, communist propaganda would portray the storming of the palace as one of the most glorious moments in Russian history. The truth was otherwise.
The Winter Palace was not stormed. The number of people who took part in its capture were no more than a few hundred. Some people say this shows that it was a military coup. Others still insist that the lack of support doesn't negate the fact that it was a popular revolution. Perhaps the way to look at this is the fact that there was mass apathy. Nobody wanted to come out and fight for either side.
Many in the mob that broke through the palace gates were more interested in the contents of the cellar than in revolution.
Because when they took the Winter Palace, they found in its basement the largest wine cellar ever known to history. There was the supply of the Tsar's favorite wine, his Chateau d'Yquem 1847, the grandest of the Grand Vin. And the looting mob that had taken the Winter Palace immediately began ransacking these cellars. The Bolsheviks didn't know how to control the situation. They tried to brick up the cellars with a wall, but the mob simply knocked it down. They tried to pump the wine out of the cellar basement and into the Neva, but they found crowds assembling around the drains, drinking the booze.
The drunken mob was an omen of the difficulties the Bolsheviks faced in gaining control of Russia. Ending the war was the first step. In December of 1917, they signed an armistice with the Germans. 3 months later, they learned the price. In the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, Russia lost over 1 million square miles of land and 62 million people. If France and Britain had any doubts about what a German victory would mean, they had only to look at Russia. But that was not Lenin's worry. He would spend the next 3 years fighting a bitter civil war, one which would claim the lives of millions, including the Tsar and his family. Lenin's rival, Alexander Kerensky, escaped to the United States where he lectured and wrote. In later years, he voiced the regret that he had not died when the revolution was young. Sergei Mstislavsky became a novelist. A survivor, he outlasted war, revolution, civil war, and Joseph Stalin's purges. Yashka, who had become identified with Kerensky, was not so fortunate. She made her way to New York, where she dictated her remarkable memoirs. But in 1920, she returned to Russia and was shot by the Bolsheviks.
The tide was too mighty. It had swamped all that was good and noble in Russia. Russia herself seemed wrecked forever in that maelstrom of unbridled passions.
"1917 had been a year of mutiny and revolution. Forces that would dominate the last year of the war and the rest of the 20th century.
This program was made possible by a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities and by the Arthur Vining Davis Foundations. Funding for this program was also provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you.
To order a video cassette of this program, or the complete 8-part series of The Great War and the Shaping of the 20th Century, call PBS Video at 1-800-328-PBS-1.
This is PBS. They were our fathers and our husbands.
They gave me messages for their wives and sweethearts. 2 of them had babies they'd never seen.
They were our sisters and our daughters.
How could I explain to her why her daddy wouldn't send her another letter?
time, the 1997 NBA playoffs. Here's your host, Hannah Storm.
The NBA playoff scene shifts to Houston today for Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. The Rockets looking to tie the Utah Jazz at 2 games apiece. The league MVP, Karl Malone, has won plenty of individual awards, but he's never been to the NBA Finals. 2 more wins, and the Jazz will make their first trip. After a disappointing conference finals last year, John Stockton is having a strong series against Houston, scoring, assisting, and setting some mean picks. Like the 2 Utah greats, Charles Barkley has never won an NBA title. But unlike Stockton and Malone, Barkley has been to the finals. He would love another shot. Akeem Olajuwon led Houston to back-to-back titles in '94 and '95. In his quest for another, Olajuwon and the Rockets face a pivotal Game 4 today. Hi, everybody. Hannah Storm, along with Julius Irving, Peter Vesey, and Mike Fratello. And we hope that you're enjoying your holiday weekend. We understand the weather may not be too good where you are, but we've got a great basketball game for you this afternoon. So let's get right to the game in Houston. Game 4 of the West Finals. Utah leads at 2-1, and the home team has won all 3 games thus far. A key in all 3 games has been the bench. Utah was dominant in games 1 and 2, while Eddie Johnson came up big in game 3 to key the Rockets' victory. With a report, Greg Gumbel at the Summit.
All right, Hannah, welcome to Houston, everyone, where the Rockets came back to win Game 3 from the Jazz on Friday night, but the numbers would still appear to favor the Utah Jazz. Consider this. The team that has won Game 1 of a series this year has won 10 of the 12 series, and all 12 playoff series have been claimed by the team with the home court advantage, and in both cases, that's the Utah Jazz. Let's check in with both teams now, beginning with the Houston Rockets and Bill Walton.
All right, Greg. Here in the palatial digs of the home team, there's a real sense of building pressure and urgency as the Houston Rockets must win this game today. Trainer Keith Jones is taping them up and rubbing them down. Rudy T is drawing up new plays, trying to duplicate the awesome performance of Akeem Olajuwon from Game 3. There has been some concern over a possible decline in Akeem's game, but Friday night he had it all on display, dominating the middle, drawing the defense, freeing up the perimeter shooters. Those same perimeter shooters that all still stopped by his locker prior to the game to pay homage to the King. That's the scene from the lap of luxury. Let's go down the hall now to the dungeon, the visiting team locker room, where Steve Jones is with the Utah Jazz. Steve?
Bill, over here in the Jazz locker room, it's business as usual. They have a very business attitude about Game 4. They realize if they can get this game, they'll have control of the series, and they will have a chance to put it away in Salt Lake City. The real key to their success has been the play of John Stockton, and as we look at his numbers, we find out this is a different John Stockton playing in this year's conference finals than it was a year ago. Back to you, Greg.
All right, Steve, so far in this series, it's been a very simple formula. The team which has shot the basketball the best, the team which has rebounded the best, and the team which has had the most productive bench has come up the winner in the first 3 games. We'll see what unfolds in Game 4 about a half hour from now. Hannah.
Thanks, Greg. Well, look at the visitors' locker room. Not quite as bad as the old visitors' locker room in the Boston Garden. Now, Karl Malone, after the loss in Game 3, Peter, he said, hey, get me the ball more. Do you think Jerry Sloan's going to accommodate him today?
Well, Jerry Sloan said, if you want the ball more, how about going to the boards and getting it? He only had 6 rebounds in Game 3. But I definitely look for them to go to Malone more. He took 7 less field goal attempts in Game 3 than his 21 average in the playoffs. They definitely are going to go to him more. If they're going to go down in this game, they're going to go down with their MVP shooting a lot, which I say now, if you know Malone's going to get the ball a lot, why not switch Akeem Olajuwon onto him a large part of the time? You know he's guarding Barkley's man most of the time anyway, so why not make it official?
All right. Now, Houston's coming off that big win at home. Does it take the pressure off? They're back at the Summit today.
No, the pressure's not off the feuding Rockets. As you know, Charles Barkley said he thought the players with the rings lacked a sense of urgency. Well, his players have responded and said they're the ones who have him in the position that he's in now to get a ring. So the beat goes on for the feuding Rockets, and I think the Jazz are still clearly in the driver's seat here.
All right, Mike, you talked to both coaching staffs a little while ago. What do you look for today?
Game keys. Let's go to the Jazz first. If we're talking about the offensive end of the floor, look for Utah to reestablish Malone in the low post area. In Game 3, they went to a lot of pick and roll. I think they may get a little bit away from that, go down to the low post area. from the defensive end of the floor for the Jazz, they must get Akeem off the low block area where he had a huge game in game number 3. Let's turn around and look at the Rockets now. Offensively, someone must establish themselves in the low post area. If they do, whether it be Akeem, Barkley, or Drexel, that will open up the three-point line, the perimeter for the Rockets. Defensively, they must stop the easy baskets that the Jazz get, whether it be in transition, offensive rebounds, slipping screens off their splits. They score so many points easy in the game, you have to take that away.
You know, this really could shape up to be a long series in the West, but it certainly doesn't look that way in the East after the Chicago Bulls thoroughly dominated the Miami Heat yesterday. For the third straight game, the Bulls defense totally shut down the Heat, and Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were sensational. As the score would indicate, this game was never close.
We got embarrassed out here today. Collectively, we did, you know, and it should be a wake-up call, to tell you the truth. It should be a wake-up call and should make us come back just that much harder on Monday. They just did what they wanted to do out there, and we did nothing to counter it at all.
The second half, it looked like Miami lost their will a little bit in the middle of the third quarter as we were able to create from turnovers, and our defense stepped up again to really match whatever offensive thrust they had.
It was a great performance on their part, but we cannot be happy at all with the effort, the collective effort on the part of our team. And I know there are going to be games in the playoffs and during the regular season where you take your hit, but today was about as low as it can get, and we got to do something to gather the forces for Monday, that's for sure.
We were able to go out and orchestrate our plan and our defensive strategies to a point where they never really made any adjustments or reacted. And, you know, that's what we're capable of doing. I'm very happy with the way we came out and we played on the road.
I don't know what problem they're having. Hopefully they don't figure it out by the next game.
We will win on Monday. We're going to win on Monday. We're going to come ready. We're going to come ready to play. And we will not play the way we played today on Monday, without a doubt.
You know, it must be that Georgetown confidence. Wasn't it a week ago that Patrick Ewing predicted victory for the Knicks in Game 7, and now we have Alonzo Mourning predicting victory tomorrow?
Bold words. I'd be much more impressed if he had made that prediction going into Game 1, Game 2, or Game 3. In Game 3, you saw Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway combine for 3 field goals in 64 minutes. To put it in perspective, Randy Brown had 4 field goals in 14 minutes. Now, between Hardaway and Mourning, I feel that the way I figure it is that they're going to have 7 games of eligibility left by the time this series is over. One more thought. Charlie Ward for series MVP.
Oh, wow. The Knicks got to be watching this one with broken hearts. Okay, Mike, you look at how they've shut down Mourning. What have they done defensively to Tim Hardaway? Hasn't been a factor at all.
Well, let's face it, Chicago has picked out Zoe and Tim as the 2 areas that they want to concentrate on. If it was Kerr or if it was Randy Brown guarding him on a regular basis, he gets a clean look at the rim or to pass to his teammates. But with Ron Harper at 6'5", 6'6", with Michael Jordan, with Scottie Pippen, and with Tim only being 6 feet, 6'1", it's tough for him to look at the front of the rim because the hands and arms are always up and extended. If it's not the guy guarding him, it's the guy setting the screen, that defensive player jumping out at him. He gets no clean looks at the rim or his teammates for easy passes.
So the Bulls' game plan's working perfectly. They shut down Zoe, they shut down Hardaway, and here we are. Why?
Here we are. Let me tell you, nobody designs a defense that can shut down 3 players. Not even Nazar can do that. And that's what
Czar can defend 5 guys on the Cavaliers alone. I mean,
5 maybe, but not 3. And 3 guys are tough to design a defense to stop. And Jamal Mashburn was brought into Miami to be that 3rd impact player. You know, he had star type of credentials coming in, but they were regular season, not playoff credentials. So the plight for Miami will be solved next year with the further development of Jamal Mashburn or the replacement.
Tim Hardaway is not guaranteeing a win in Game 4, but he is guaranteeing that the Jazz outscore Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
It could be close the way it went yesterday. Okay, Game 4 of that series is tomorrow on NBC. Again, it's a special Memorial Day show. We have a showtime at 3 o'clock Eastern and the tip-off around 3:30 Eastern. And we'll be back with more playoff chat in just a moment.
Coming up next, we'll take a look back at the first 3 games of the Western Conference Finals between the Jazz and Rockets. And later, we'll hear from one of the unsung heroes of the Houston Rockets, Mario Elie. NBA Showtime continues after these messages.
No matter where they play, at home or away, the NBA plays in champion jerseys. And no matter where you play, at home or away, you can make your next reverse dunk in the new champion NBA reversible jersey. Any way you look at it, the new NBA reversible jersey exclusively from Champion, available at Champ Sports.
Michael Jordan on Life. Life is being judged every night on the highest court. It's seeing a challenge and rising to meet it. Sometimes life is an easy layup, unless, of course, you can dunk. Life is realizing the hardest thing to defend is your reputation. It's standing up to competition and thirsting for more. Life is a game face and a winning smile. Life is knowing your real team is at home. Life is about winning, winning, and winning. Life is about loss. Life is what you put into it. Life is knowing the toughest competition you ever face is yourself. Life is a sport.
Hiya, Diane, it's Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Just wondering how you're doing in your new home.
Great.
I wanted to remind you to get a spare key made and let me know if there's anything that needs fixing, all right? All right, sweetheart, bye. Hi, Dad again. I forgot to tell you something. Diane, I am so proud of you.
For a free guide that can help you on the path to homeownership, call the Fannie Mae Foundation. We're showing America a new way home.
As we return, a quick look at the Rockets Jazz series.
Karl Malone, 1996-97 NBA Most Valuable Player.
The league's MVP got it going in Game 1, pouring in 21 points and hauling down 13 rebounds. But it was a different story for Charles Barkley.
I'm not going to bitch and complain about the officiating. I mean, we just got to write this off as a bad night. We did not play very well, and I was the leader of the pack.
Game 2 belonged to Utah's other superstar, John Stockton. 26 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds, almost his first career triple-double. Stockton and Malone combined for 50 points.
Screen and roll, run to perfection by Stockton and Malone Incorporated. John Stockton comes off as a choir boy. Meanwhile, he's trying to take your head off.
Obviously, the ref's not going to do their job. They're going to let him set, move, and pick that ace. So I was trying to separate his shoulder or break a rib.
We can't back down. We have to play the kind of ball that we've been playing here. Even though it's dirty for some people, we're just going to go play the game and see what happens.
Down 2 games to none and facing a must-win in Game 3, the Rockets got big performances from Charles Barkley and center Akeem Olajuwon, who finished with 27. They also received a huge lift off the bench from veteran Eddie Johnson, who poured in a game-high 31 points, including 5 three-pointers.
You try to pick an opportunity where you can seize the moment and be a hero of sorts. I felt good when I came in, and I just knew I had to make a difference because we were struggling.
In Game 3, it was the Jazz who struggled. It'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back from the loss. This is remarkable. Utah has not lost back-to-back games since early January. A short while ago, Jim Gray spoke with Houston head coach Rudy Tomjanovich.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannah. Down 2-1. Obviously, this is the critical game. Is this the Rocket season, do or die today, going down 3-1 and having to win 2 games in Utah? Would that be catastrophic?
Well, it would put us in a tough position, and the pressure's still on us right now. We have to hold serve and then try to get one there in Utah. If we lost this one and went down 1-3, we've been there before. I'm not going to say it's where we want to be, and I think all our players know the importance of this game, and we're going to see a battle out there tonight.
Rudy, what will you say to your gang just before the game? You've done a pretty good job, at least in Game 3, of resolving the pick and roll.
Well, they're going to score on the pick and roll some. They run it so much, and there are two great players involved, and that's been our main focus. But there's a lot of other things. I think the biggest factor has been fast break points, and when we held them down, we've won the game, and we also have to get fast break points.
All right, Rudy, good luck today.
Thank you.
All right, let's send it back now to New York and Hannah Storm.
Thanks, Jim. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Jazz and the Rockets and a couple of guys who really don't get a lot of attention, and that's the two head coaches, Jerry Sloan and Rudy Tomjanovich, particularly when you compare them to the two men who are coaching in the Eastern Conference Final, Pat Riley and Phil Jackson. But a look at the numbers over the last 6 seasons is interesting. A comparison of Pat Riley and Jerry Sloan, and their regular season and playoff records are comparable. And for a lot of reasons, both Rudy T and Jerry Sloan, Peter, are infinitely likable guys.
Definitely, because they're both egoless. They have no airs about them, no pretensions. They treat everybody brutally honest. They don't let the little things drive them crazy. And neither one of them are self-promoters. Maybe they should think about writing some books.
Now, Mike, what do you like about both of these guys as a fellow coach?
What you respect about these two men the most is that their teams will be well prepared. You know they're going to execute on game night. Then they show up to play almost all 82 nights, so your team better be ready. There's not too many nights off with their teams. The third thing, they have shaped and molded their teams to meet the capabilities of their players. And the last thing, most impressive, they both have established long-term relationships, not only with the franchise, the organization, but with their stars, which is so hard to do nowadays.
And you know, Jerry Sloan, longest tenure of any NBA coach. He's been there 9 years. Rudy T, his entire career from player to head coach with Houston. Now, as a player, would you like to have played for either of these guys?
I don't think it would have been a difficult thing to play for either one of these guys. I probably could have excelled under either one. I think that the players love coaches who did or could do the things that they asked them to do night in and night out. And when you think about these two, when they were players, they went to war every night and often came away quite bruised, especially Jerry Sloan.
Yeah, he was something else, wasn't he, on defense? Okay, up next, we'll hear from Mario Elie. He is not one of the big three, but he's one of the big reasons the Rockets are in the Western Conference Finals.
Prime Star Satellite Television. That's right. 160 channels.
That's right, ma'am. 160 channels, specially grouped by category.
Sports in one group.
Movies in another group.
And of course, there's a family group. No, ma'am. Other companies make you buy the dish. With Prime Star,
there's no dish to buy.
Want to do something after our shift?
Thank you, but I've got other plans.
Call 1-800-PRIME-STAR or visit your local Radio Shack.
Vin Baker to NBA chess pass drill level B.
Vin, thanks for coming. I'd like to show you something.
Jersey test positive. Commence starter cell performance analysis.
Put these with the others. Today we're simulating a home game to test thermal protection.
What's the guy in the middle testing?
The hat.
In yet another torture test, we drained the oil from this car and added just this much Castrol Syntec. We then ran it over 100 miles per hour and waited and waited. You see, Syntec has a unique molecular structure that bonds to engine parts. And if a little Syntec can protect under these conditions, imagine what a full oil change can do. Castrol Syntec protects in ways other oils can't. And now, try Castrol Syntec Power System, a new kind of fuel system treatment.
This old man, he plays on my floor. With the knick-knack, paddywhack, give it all more. This old man keep rolling on. This old man, he plays six. He plays knick-knack with plastics.
Available at Foot Locker.
A team with 3 of the top 50 players in NBA history, Mario Elie fills an important role. In fact, for the Houston Rockets, Mario Elie is the ultimate role player. There are players in the NBA whose talent alone virtually assures them success, and then there are the stories of perseverance, like that of Elie. To understand his journey to the NBA, you'll need an atlas, from the tough streets of New York City to a couple of seasons in the CBA to finally winning a pair of championships in Houston. Jim Gray spoke with Elie about his odyssey.
Growing up in New York City, is it true that you wore 5 pair of socks just to be able to fit into your sneakers to play ball?
Absolutely. I used to take my brother's shoes, you know, and I used to have to wear 5 pairs of socks. It was tough times for my family, you know. Finally, when I made when I played with Chris Mullin in the 10th grade, you know, JV, you know, I got my first pair of sneakers. I was so excited. I had to pay for a pair of sneakers, so I wore those sneakers all year, and then we went 25-0 that year. It was great.
So you didn't have a pair of tennis shoes or sneakers until you were 15 years old, 14
Kids
years old?
would laugh at me, you know, because I had to wear the same stuff. You know, I didn't really have too many clothes back then, but I vowed myself, then when I make the NBA, I'm going to have plenty of shoes, I'm going to open a shoe store, and I'm going to have a closet full of clothes. It just, it was a dream I had, and it finally came true.
How many pair of shoes do you own now?
Wow. My mom's in town right now, and she's fixing my closet. I may have over 100 pair of shoes easily, so.
You're the Imelda of the NBA?
Definitely.
Good job, O. Good job, O.
Can you chronicle your own career? Can you remember each step along the way?
Like yesterday, 6 different leagues and maybe 3 or 4 countries, a couple continents, a couple farm towns. I knew I wasn't ready for the NBA, you know. I said I wasn't mentally ready, so that's when I went on the whole odyssey. I went all these countries, and it's been just a great ride.
Ellie out of the corner for 3, hit it! Mario Ellie with a 3 with 7.1 seconds to play.
You beat that Phoenix team, which Charles was a member of, with the very famous
Kiss of Death.
Kiss of Death. What's it like to have gone from his opponent to his teammate?
And when they made the trade for him in the summertime, I'm like, wow, Charles Barkley with Clyde and Dream, how this is going to work out, I don't know, but it seemed to work out great. I know people see the other side of Charles, but, I mean, his teammates really know he has a big heart, and he's just a wonderful individual.
Mario, why is it that this team at times doesn't play with any sense of urgency? Is it because this team has won 2 championships?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we just feel sometimes that just because the talent we have, we can just go out there and play, and that's not the case. I mean, Utah's a very, very talented team, and we just need to just be a little more patient and play with a lot more intelligence. But you can't tell that the 3 of the 50 great players there, you know, they take that a little personal. So I just sit back and let the coaching staff do that.
Which one of these guys frustrates you the most, and which is the easiest to deal with?
Charles sort of frustrates me the most because as great as he is, he's just so unselfish. I think he can do more. You know, he can score more, he can bring more energy. And me and Dream have the best relationship. I mean, we're the only 2 guys here left from our first championship, and me and him has such a good rapport with each other. And, you know, when we have problems getting him the ball, he always says, Mario, give me the ball. You pass it to me. Snap the pass.
Mario Ellie is a winner. Really, he's one of the most underrated players in the league.
I'm glad I got the last laugh at seeing, you know, I got 2 championships. I'm starting on one of the best teams in the league, and Rudy wanted me. That's why I really like Rudy, because he really wanted me. He gave me opportunity to play, and he sees what I do out there. Y'all know what we got to do. Just get back on D, make them players 5-on-5, take advantage of the big fellas down low. I love what I do. You know, you got all these young guys in the league with all these posses and gold chains, and that's just not what the NBA is all about. It's about the love for the game and going out and doing your job the best you can. And that's what Rudy likes about me. I love what I do. He asks me to do something, I have no problem doing it.
Mario Ellie starting a tradition in Houston of former CBA players who have had quite an impact on the Rockets teams under Rudy Tomjanovich.
Definitely, Hannah. Good piece on a good guy, though. And for every 500 guys out there like Mario, 499 of them fall through the cracks. Mario has elevated himself up through the cracks, and he single-handedly has made Rudy Tomjanovich a serious believer in CBA basketball talent. You take Eldridge Rekasner, you take Matt Maloney, you take Sam Mack. I mean, these guys are not an option to have on your team. They're a necessity.
And you got to give Rudy Tomjanovich a lot of credit, Pete, for seeing what maybe some other coaches didn't in Mario Ellie.
Definitely. Rudy T said this is the only guy he saw playing for another team that he said he had to have playing for him. So they gave a second-round pick to Portland. That's how they got him. They love the way he's unselfish, his demeanor out on the court. He's a great role player, great defensive player. I think he should definitely make one of the 3 all-defensive teams every year. And I've got a particular rooting interest in this guy because I knew him when he wasn't when we used to play in New York at NYU in pickup games, and he would be the reason we would hold the court.
Mike, can you compare him to any other guys on championship teams in the past?
Sure, you go back to past 10 or 12 championship teams. There's always been a guy like a Mario that you could think about. In fact, Doc, let's go back to your ABA championship days with the Nets. There was Mike Gale. How about Clint Richardson from the 76er championship team?
Oh, both guys who were vital to our success. I mean, these guys, they can guard either guard. They can guard forwards. And the plus-minus chart, every time they were on the court, you got pluses.
Think about Laker championships, Michael Cooper. You go to the early Chicago championships with John Paxson. Guys who, in their role, drive a stake through your heart at the moment that you least likely expect it. You think the superstar is going to do it, and here's this other guy stepping up.
You know, lots of important players on both sides of the game today. And also, of course, 5 of the 10 starters in today's game are among the 50 greatest players in NBA history. Settle in for the Jazz and the Rockets, Game 4, the Western Conference Finals. Greg Gumbel, Steve Jones, and Bill Walton will call it. The NBA playoffs continue on NBC after these messages from your local station.
NBC Tonight, another network premiere movie. Billy Crystal and Helen Hunt.
They're going to cancel me!
I'll get you an audience. Saving a stand-up career from falling down.
I worked very hard to get you that job. What did you do that for?
At a special time.
This is what happens when cousins marry.
Listeners, Saturday night, 8:30, 7:30 Central, NBC Tonight.
Introducing the 1997 Lexus LS400 Coach Edition. The streets are ready. Are you? Save $3,000 on the Coach Edition at your Cleveland area Lexus dealer.
You'll be happy to know that Midas is having their Shake, Rattle and Roll sale, where you'll save 50% off your second shock or strut and 25% off an alignment. You see, Midas figured a big savings would come in handy.
Midas now has extended hours for your convenience. Call your locally owned Midas store today for information.
Well, you bought yourself a great shirt. You got your cup holder, your vanity mirror, and...
Buying something big? Use the Bravo Card's innovative reserve line, a second line of credit at a lower rate for your bigger purchases.
So, how's the jacket working out for you?
Of course, within reason.
Great. Hey, where'd you fly off to?
Imagine credit and extra credit. Bravo. Use it where you see the Novus sign.
Donna Terrell, tonight on Channel 3 News.
Bring it on! Two teams sharing a blue-collar persona. A quality depicted in their no-nonsense coaches. Worn with pride by 5 future Hall of Famers. And reflected in the character of the places they represent. Houston, Utah, an NBA clash of the Titans. No quarter asked and none given. Yet after 2 games, one team's blue-collar image gave way to a case of the blues. The Rockets limped home, down 0-2, flirting with elimination. But in Game 3, the emotional pendulum swung on the shoulders of a 38-year-old journeyman. Now, Utah's lead is just 1. And though inspired by their win, the pressure today is again on the Houston Rockets.
This is the NBA on NBC. The 1997 NBA playoffs.
The battlefield for this afternoon's Game 4 is the Summit in Houston, Texas. The Utah Jazz looking to put a stranglehold on the series. The Houston Rockets trying to get ready.
Start from the beginning, man. 48, man. From the beginning. 2.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Summit. Greg Gumbel, along with Steve Jones and Bill Walton. As the Rockets try to pull even at 2-2 in this best-of-7 series, they try to do so against a team which has simply been the best in basketball over the last 3 months. Take a look at the numbers. Utah has lost twice to the Lakers, once to Atlanta, and once to Houston on Friday night. Their only losses since the 1st of March. They have been the best around, and they are driven by an MVP.
Yeah, and it's an MVP who loves big games, Greg. You know, whenever you think of Karl Malone, you think of a guy that relishes the moment and knows how to play in the opposition's camp. He is building toward a huge performance this afternoon. After a great shooting game in Game 3, he's looking for something that he laid down on the Los Angeles Lakers in L.A. in Game 4.
Well, from day one, we have said that the Houston Rockets rise and fall with their big three. No different here this afternoon, Bill.
Greg, when you have 3 of the greatest players in the history of the NBA, special things happen on the court, and it all came together Friday night. Now, during the regular season, all their numbers were a little bit down, but they've been sharing the wealth. In the playoffs, they've been solid and very consistent. Friday night, it all came together here in Game 3. They punished them in the paint. The bench came through. Eddie Johnson's 31 points. They shot the lights out. Now, in Houston, it all starts with the big man, Hakeem, down low. He draws the defense, and the three-point bombs go down. Look for the Houston Rockets to come up with one more special performance tonight, Greg.
All right, Bill, there's been some talk about Charles Barkley and some comments he made yesterday. With more on that, here's Jim Gray. Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. Well, yesterday, Charles Barkley said that he felt his team lacked a sense of urgency, that they weren't playing with desperation. Well, today, Charles came in the locker room and he spoke to Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler directly. He said, guys, my comments were not directed to you as individuals. They were directed to the entire team, that I, too, must work harder, that it's not just you guys, and it wasn't meant for you guys to take personally. It was meant for all of us. He went on to say that we must win this game today. It is our season. If we go down 1-3, that'll just be too deep of a hole. Greg?
All right, Jim, the 105th consecutive sellout at the Summit is ready for action. Game 4, starting lineups coming up right after this.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Romaine. Want to spend a few days with me at the next Sports Illustrated swimsuit shoot? You could make a difference here. Because where I work, it's really hot. So if I get thirsty, you could get me something to drink. It's also really sandy. And maybe you could help me with my different swimsuits.
Nothing to do this fall? You could win a trip to the next Sports Illustrated swimsuit shoot. Apply where you buy Miller Lite.
There's the first goal, Bob. Just like in Detroit where they throw an octopus on the ice, up here in Canada, they throw Canadians. Gonna be a while? Grab a Snickers.
We'd be sharing love before the night was strangers in the night. Two lonely people, we were strangers in the night. Up to the moment when we said our first hello. Little did we know, love was just a glance away, a warm embracing dance away. Doody-dooby-doo.
The NBA on NBC is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time. By AT&T, it's all within your reach. And by Nissan, who reminds you that life is a journey. Enjoy the ride.
We welcome you back to a noisy Summit in Houston, Texas, as we're about to get underway. Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. Here are the starting lineups. For the visiting Utah Jazz, 64-18 on the regular season. The familiar names, Jeff Hornacek and John Stockton in the backcourt. Up front, Greg Ostertag in the middle. Alongside him, MVP Karl Malone and Brian Russell in his 4th year out of Long Beach State. In his 9th year as the head coach of the Utah Jazz, Jerry Sloan. For the homestanding Houston Rockets, 57-25 on the regular season. In the backcourt, the rookie out of Penn, Matt Maloney, along with the veteran Clyde Drexler. Up front, Hakeem Olajuwon averaging 22.5 points a game throughout the postseason, 29 a game in this series. Charles Barkley and Mario Elie at the forward position. And in his 6th year as the head coach of the Houston Rockets, Rudy Tomjanovich. The officials for this afternoon's game, Dan Crawford, Bill Oakes, Bernie Fryer. Let's talk first about the Houston Rockets and how they have to at least duplicate what they did here Friday night.
Greg, Rudy Tomjanovich needs this Rocket team defensively to take away the layups, the easy baskets in transition and off the back cuts out of Houston's set offense. They've got to rebound the ball, always the key to Houston's success. And then please, one time, make a shot. One time.
Right. How about the Utah Jazz, Steve?
Well, the real secret is John Stockton and his ability to set the offense up so that Karl Malone is going to be able to deliver the high percentage shot and set everyone else up. If they do that, they go home with control of the series and a chance to finish on Tuesday.
Utah Jazz do not have a record of success in the Western Conference Finals. Just 1 of 11 victories on the road. But to a man, they will say this is a different team this season. Greg Ostertag will jump at center against Hakeem Olajuwon. And John Stockton will take charge. John Stockton all alone.
That has been the case, Greg, the start of every single game in this series. Stockton rubbing off a high screen and getting a layup.
Olajuwon spins away from the double team, and Ostertag has the rebound. Malone gave it up and got it right back from Stockton. Turnaround, 4-0 Utah.
The Utah Jazz got off to a great start Friday night, 31-18. Blew the Rockets out early. The bench got them back in for Houston.
Line drive off the backboard for Clyde Drexler gets Houston on the board.
Now, the real interesting thing is what the Houston Rockets are going to do at the defensive end. If John Stockton's able to come down and set their offense like they have in the first 2 possessions, too many high percentage shots, the Rockets defense is going to suffer.
11 on the shot clock. Six on the clock. Malone going to look for a shot over Barkley. Drexler pulls it back to Maloney. And now Barkley. Lob to Olajuwon and fouled by Ostertag.
Talking to Jerry Sloan prior to the game, he was very disappointed in the Jazz effort in denying Olajuwon reception of the ball too close to the basket. Hakeem slices down that lane, and you see both feet are dead in the paint. Ostertag has got to do a better job before Hakeem ever receives that ball.
How about Karl Malone putting some pressure on Charles Barkley so that Ostertag has a chance to ride him out? If a passer has a lot of time to spot the receiver, he's going to get the high percentage position.
Stockton throwing picks in the lane. And whistle blows. And
you say throwing picks. He's the littlest guy in the game out there.
Hey, he's throwing picks.
He may be the toughest guy in the game, too.
Foul is on Clyde Drexler.
Well, they're both going to get their share of arms out and throwing elbows. Drexler just guided Hornacek with a forearm right around the forehead.
Malone. Talking to Charles Barkley yesterday, Charles told us if he wants to give Karl Malone any shot, it'll be that fadeaway.
That's also the fadeaway that made him the MVP this year, though. Hakeem raked across the arm with no call.
Jazz with the ball and a 2-point lead. Batted away from Ostertag and picked off by Olajuwon. Whistle blows and an offensive foul on Olajuwon. John Stockton stood his ground at center court and drew the charge.
We talked about the toughness of Stockton. He will hang in there. Hakeem a little out of control, but you almost have to give a man room to come down. Stockton, I thought, stepped in underneath. Good place for a non-call.
A center would think that.
Hornacek. And that'll be number 2 on Olajuwon. And immediately off the bench.
And
Kevin Willis and a technical on Hakeem.
Well, that tells you that Olajuwon wanted to be in this ball game, and he has had great success in knowing that he has to sit down. That really hurts him. You go back and you look, and he's telling the official, hey, how about using that noggin? But this game is all about mental toughness. You can't let the small things distract you if you're the Houston Rockets and if you're the Utah Jazz, knowing that if you can win this game, you have control of the series. You've got to play through all the distractions, every single one.
Well, sitting on the bench now is 29 points a game in this series against Utah for the Houston Rockets.
And the man that carried them in the first half, Friday night game 3, when Utah was playing perfect and the Rockets were struggling for offense. You can get away with a lot more verbally than you can with a physical exhibition and demonstration of protest against the referees.
So Hornacek cleans up at the free throw line with the technical and the 2 foul shots, and the Jazz with a 5-point lead.
Now they'll just swing Barkley into the low post and run basically the same offense.
Yeah, but it's not nearly as effective because Charles Barkley has a tough time scoring against Karl Malone. Malone is big and strong, can hold him out. Barkley with a miss.
Malone. And good defense by Barkley. Back come. Oh, what a pass to Ellie.
That is going to be the difference in this series. Which team gets the cheap bucket?
Malone just too deep there.
Missed the layup. That's out of bounds to Houston.
2
consecutive. Rookie Matt Maloney.
Matt Maloney on the break. The wing guys get wide, and that spreads the defense, opening it up for Mario Elie. Nice quick zip pass, a la John Stockton from Maloney.
Barkley to Maloney. (9-8) Utah. Inside, battle for the ball, whistle blows, and a foul. No, it's not out of bounds. Out of bounds to Utah.
We'll just let it go. The Rockets defense vastly improved from the first 2 games up in Salt Lake City.
But that's about energy, and they know they have to have the energy because this is a team that attacks the basket. They live for the 2-point hoop. Stockton with another 2.
And a 3-point lead for the Jazz. Just under 8 minutes to play, first quarter. Barkley clears out for Drexler now, who is one-on-one with Brian Russell. Into the lane, kicks it outside.
You can't get it and stop. It breaks everything down.
Willis. Ellie with the rebound, and Barkley lost the handle. Hornacek recovers. Stockton to Malone on the run. 13-8 Utah. 6 of those points belong to Karl Malone.
No big man runs the floor better than Karl Malone in the history of the game, delivering that time. Once again, wonderful extension.
You see Barkley trying to back in. He never gets his beat.
Maloney. Batted outside, and Barkley recovers in a new 24 for the Rockets.
The finisher thought he never gets as deep against Karl Malone as he does against other players. Nice cut by Drexler, knocked away.
Nice block by Brian Russell. Back comes Stockton. Cross court, and the Jazz will slow it down and go inside to Malone. Batted out of bounds by Drexler. And we'll take time with 6:44 remaining in the first quarter. Fast-paced game, and the Jazz own it by 5 so far.
Do or die for the Heat against Jordan of the Bulls, Monday on NBC.
When his best friend got sick, buddy, Richard started dressing the part.
It was a walk-on, Charlie.
Learning the lines.
Leading, overruled. Beg, no.
And taking the law into his own hands.
Can't we get around this law thing?
You're touching me.
Just breathe.
Michael Richards, Jeff Daniels. That's our defense.
Twinkie.
Trial and error.
Objection.
Rated PG-13. Starts Friday.
We were on vacation.
Oh, your sunglasses.
When we realized we were sitting on a gold mine.
Rubber sunglasses.
Too bad none of the stores saw it that way.
So, any more bright ideas?
Actually, yes. Our own website. And before we knew it, we were selling shades to everyone under the sun.
Open a storefront on the internet with the most powerful network in the world.
What do you get when some really small group of people gather in some tiny, sweaty little club to see some incredibly huge band, but nobody knows who it is until the second they hit the stage? The Miller Genuine Draft blind date. Small clubs, large bands, big mystery. Explore the unknown.
6:44 to play first quarter. Utah leads at 13-8. Steve, at the very top of the day, we were talking about how the mailman would have to carry them. He and John Stockton are doing their magic.
These are the guys that they have built the fortunes of the franchise around, and they know how to play in big games, and they love big games. So you can expect that both of them are ready to play today, and this is perhaps the biggest game of their career because it gets them one step closer to a place they'd never been, the NBA championship.
Karl Malone has already taken 6 shots. He took a total of 14 on Friday night in Game 3.
Ostertag kick is no good, and Ellie is there for the rebound.
You know, it's not only about taking shots, but it's about making them, and this guy makes them. Drexler
lost his footing. Kevin Willis has it and backs his way into the shot clock at 7 to the baseline, and he was pushed.
I think this is something that the Rockets need to do more of. Is with Akeem on the bench with foul trouble, dump it in low to Kevin Willis. He had a nice jump hook rhythm going Friday night. Take advantage down low. He's a very difficult man to guard in deep.
Greg Ostertag goes to the bench with his second personal, and Greg Foster comes off of the bench. Greg's all over the place.
The way you like it.
That kind of game. Drexler, turnaround, fall away, rebound to Stockton.
Terrific box out, Greg Foster.
Down low, Malone. Oh.
Charles Barkley is trying to take away the right side, but he's allowing him to get too deep. If Malone is going to live down there in the paint, it's going to be a huge afternoon for the mailman.
Drexler in the lane.
Everything one-on-one off the dribble. Very difficult for the Rockets. The Jazz, better ball movement.
Hornacek open and hits. Jeff Hornacek gives the Jazz a 7-point lead, 17-10. Hornacek has 5.
The Rockets have been playing on their heels in the first quarter in every one of the ball games, and they've got to get into this one because Utah is hot shooting early in the ball game.
Barkley, and an illegal defense call against Utah. That's the first of the game. That results in a warning. The next will be a technical foul.
It wasn't that long ago when Charles Barkley would dominate Karl Malone day in and day out when Charles was playing for the Phoenix Suns. Karl Malone has improved his game immeasurably.
Barkley came up short and got fouled on the arm. This promises to be a battle royal on the blocks all day long.
You take a look at two powerful men and one just a little bit bigger and stronger. They make an exchange right there, but Karl Malone knows that he can keep Charles Barkley from making his favorite move of bodying in, getting a pump fake and going up and under because he can just brace and hold him in that spot.
Karl Malone is still talking to Charles. And Barkley, whose free throw ability at the line has come and gone in this series, misses the first.
Malone and Barkley are best of friends off the court, bitter rivals on. Barkley does not have the jumping ability off his offensive low post game anymore to deliver in Karl Malone's face.
Barkley's first point of the day, 17-11 Utah. Coming up on 4:50 to play in the first quarter.
They changed the matchup. Kevin Willis now guarding Karl Malone.
That's a lot better for Barkley, who's a better team defender than individual.
Foster open, top of the key, hit it.
Now Foster's been killing him the entire series. His confidence is up. And once a guy grows hair like that, he becomes a monster, and he's going to problem for the Rockets.
Barkley goes right back at Malone. Fakes once, puts it up, got the foul. Number 2 on Karl Malone.
Barkley pounding his way inside. He has to go to the fadeaway. Karl, no foul there whatsoever. Bailout call by the officials. And now Malone has to sit down. The fans want a technical to match Akeem's.
There was a foul. It just wasn't Karl Malone. It was Greg Foster, the guy that was over the top that hit Charles Barkley, but the Jazz and Malone pay a heavy price. They'd love to see Foster pick up the foul.
Three-point play makes it a 14-19 disadvantage. 5-point lead for the Jazz, 4:20 to play in the first.
Must be all that hair that Foster's growing, turning into a monster.
In the lane, Hornacek misses. Willis with the rebound. Foster and Willis exchange blows. No call was made.
Charles Barkley facing the basket and wants to go one-on-one against Greg Foster.
Barkley to the baseline. Rebounded. Barkley drew another foul.
This is what is killing Jerry Sloan. His team is being outworked as Akeem trying to get back into this game, but Barkley has taken over the offensive paint. Offensive rebounds, posts up, and working his way to the free throw line.
They're not being outworked. The great players sitting down. And if they don't have Karl Malone in there, it's a different kind of a matchup. Greg Foster can't deal with Charles Barkley.
Barkley makes the first of 2. Let's talk about this matchup.
You know, in the head-to-head, Charles Barkley has been losing, and it's simply because, one, Karl Malone is bigger and stronger, and Charles Barkley doesn't have to score points in order for his team to win in the same way that Karl Malone does.
But Barkley gets both free throws. It's now a 19-16 Jazz lead. Isley got caught in the air. Willis made the steal. Maloney stops from 3 short.
Terrible shot. You got big guys running the floor ahead of you, and you pull up and shoot a 3. You better make that, or that's a hook one. Get them to the bench.
Carr, fadeaway to the baseline. Antoine Carr. 21-16, Jazz, 3:10 to play, first quarter.
They leave Barkley in an isolation, and this is tough for Foster. Too deep.
Inside, goes to the left hand. That'll be number 2 on Foster. Charles Barkley is a personal wrecking crew.
He's just determined to get to that foul line each and every time. Foster in foul trouble. Utah, as deep a team as there is in the NBA, and that includes the Chicago Bulls. 1 through 12 for Utah can play, but Barkley, this has become a parade for him.
Barkley is 4 out of 5 from the line this afternoon.
This is where Charles Barkley has games that produce big numbers. If he can get to the free throw line at least 10 to 12 times, he's going to be 30-plus on the afternoon. And as long as Karl Malone is down, there's nobody in a Jazz uniform that's going to be able to deal with it.
Charles Barkley has scored the last 8 Houston points. And again, it's down to a 3-point lead for the Jazz and we're under 3 minutes to play in the first.
But if you're a great team like Utah, and even without Karl Malone for a temporary period,
Isley in the lane.
If you cannot control your defensive backboard, you have no reason thinking you're going to win not only this series, but the championship.
Drexler kicks it out. Ellie fakes the 3, goes down the lane, off the glass. No, tapped by Barkley. No, it's a loose ball foul. And that'll be on Barkley.
Barkley said, no, I didn't ride the shoulder of the Utah Jazz player to get that tip, but it's a great drive that really broke it down. Ellie gets to the rim, and watch Charles Barkley go up.
2:31 to play in the first.
I think I'll take Ralphie for a drive. They said imports taste better. They lied.
And how does that make you feel?
Used, manipulated, betrayed.
And how does that make you feel?
Used, manipulated, betrayed.
So now what?
Only drink fresh beer. Budweiser.
You have made a real breakthrough. You did it on your own.
Born on dating from Budweiser. What fresh beer tastes like.
You're on the road to freshness. Hold all my calls.
Weekend warriors, prepare for battle.
Nowhere in America will you find more of the best brands for your lawn and garden. Great names like Scotts, Honda, and Toro than at the Home Depot, your power equipment headquarters.
I see skies are blue, clouds are
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
What a wonderful world.
Third Rock tonight. Dick's a dime. And look who's giving him advice.
Oh, Dick, 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 Dick.
Third Rock.
Dick, Dick.
NBC tonight.
As we welcome you back to Houston, we remind you to go to NBCSports.com for the latest from the playoffs. This week, listen to audio clips from Larry Bird, Rick Pitino, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, and others on a variety of topics, including the MVP, coaching, and the finals. And our weekly poll question asks, with the NBA draft approaching, which team do you think will have the biggest turnaround next year? Cast your vote at NBCSports.com. Ryan Russell loses the handle in the lane. Kevin Willis gives it up. Here's Barkley to Drexler. Scoop. Drexler again, and the whistle blows. This will be another foul going against Utah. Antoine Carr.
Houston is pushing the Jazz underneath the basket. They are controlling their own offensive glass. This game has eerie similarities to Game 3, where Utah gets out quick early. Hakeem goes to the bench, the subs come in, and then the push, the relentless push by the role players just takes over for the Houston Rockets as they battle their way back in.
Now, rebounding is what won the game for the Utah Jazz in a core shooting game in Game 2. They got second opportunities. Rockets getting second opportunities here early.
23-19 as we approach 2 minutes to play in the first quarter. Utah shooting 67% to Houston's 31.
2 minutes remain in the period.
Carr. Back outside, tapped out of bounds, belongs to Houston.
With Stockton and Malone both on the bench, Utah struggling to find offense. Antoine Carr, Brian Russell, they've got to be the creators out there.
Willis lost the ball coming across the lane to Brian Russell. Isley can't find a way in. Carr, top of the key, got it. Antoine Carr.
Now, Carr may do his impersonation of Eddie Johnson. When he gets his little jumper going, it's a huge lift for the Utah Jazz, and that one is a little bit deeper than you'd like, but it's right on the money.
25-19. Drexler open for three.
This is a deep Houston team. You can't really leave anybody. They chose Drexler that time. Don't let him find the rhythm.
50 seconds to play in the first. Isley throws it up. Rebound, Barkley. Eddie Johnson back to Drexler. Another three. Willis with the rebound. Short pop is good. Clock is at 2. Hornacek fadeaway drops.
That is Jeff Hornacek at his best. Off-balance, typical shot that somehow finds a way to go in. 7 in the first quarter for him. They keep the Jazz on top, and they get the ball back on a turnover off Eddie Johnson.
6 seconds with which to work. Hornacek on the run. Barkley has it. Length of the court. No. Whistle blows first.
Ernie Fryer's got a call over here.
That's a double dribble on Barkley, and they're going to put...
Oh, I believe it's a double dribble call on Barkley.
Yeah, it is, and they're going to put 1.4 seconds on the clock.
3 opportunities that the Rockets have just given up carelessly. Utah unable to convert so far.
Foster wide open and missed it. Karl Malone played just 8 minutes in that quarter and scored 8 points. Charles Barkley has 8 points, 6 of them from the free throw line. The Houston Rockets need a win to go back to Salt Lake City, tied at 2 games apiece. They can ill afford a Utah victory here today. Coming back to the Summit for the second quarter, right after this.
I guess if I had to change anything, I would probably say that, you know, I'd probably smile a little bit more when I play, but, you know, that's really not me. I think we look at people and we say, hey, that guy got a nice smile on his face. This guy, you know, he's look like he's having a lot of fun. You know, that's really not me, so I have to stick to the things that got you where you are, and you accept them, and that's that. I think that's probably why I'm creative in doing other things because the smile's not going to be there, but the creative in the game is going to be, so you got to bring the interest to yourself. You got to make people find the interest in you, and I think that's what I've done.
McDonald's Big Beefy Quarter Pounder with cheese. Just buy any size fries and drink and get one Big Beefy Quarter Pounder with cheese for just 55 cents in a My Size meal.
55 cents? How much is the Quarter Pounder if I buy a small Coke and fries?
55 cents.
How much if I buy a strawberry shake and fries?
55 cents.
The deal is in the meal. My Size meal at my McDonald's.
Specialist or sergeant. Beneath the ribbons on your chest will be the souls of those who came before. You will be an individual, but triumph as a team. You will know strength, courage, and compassion. You will win what must be won, achieve what must be done. Be all that you can be. You will be a soldier.
You're watching the NBA playoffs on NBC.
Welcome back to Houston. Greg Gumbel, Bill Walton, Steve Jones, Jim Gray. And Steve, you're talking about Charles Barkley and his work down low.
Hey, he did a terrific job. Once Hakeem Olajuwon went out of the ball game, he realized that it was his responsibility to give them some sort of inside presence in the high percentage area, and he started to attack anybody that was guarding him. Karl Malone, Greg Foster, they both paid a price in that first quarter.
Shot chart for Charles Barkley. He only took 3 shots, 7 trips to the foul line, though. When you're the shortest guy out there in the front court of all the big guys, and you're backing them down and getting to the line, you're doing your job. Barkley, the king today.
A little bit more of that. He could be sore Charles by the end of the day. Eddie Johnson off the bench and 3, picking up right where he left off Friday night.
But late in the first quarter, Eddie Johnson passed up some forced opportunities, waiting for the game to come to him.
We're tied at 27, and Shandon Anderson, the rookie out of Georgia, breaks free to put Utah back on top, and a whistle blows.
T on Rudy Tomjanovich, probably complaining about the push-off on Shandon Anderson, but the Utah Jazz are the epitome of a team that plays for the high percentage shot. And every time they get a chance, they're going to try to get inside. Shandon Anderson got a nice lob over the top from Stockton.
Why would you ever front Shandon Anderson in the low post? I mean, play behind the guy. Make him make a turnaround, fadeaway jumper.
I love when you get into your pleading voice.
Olajuwon's back in the game. Let's see if they get him started and established here in the second quarter. Antoine Carr.
Hakeem, he got hit in the head, in the face at that point, and drew the foul from Antoine Carr. That's number 2 on Carr.
Well, Antoine Carr is going to try to play Hakeem with quickness. See how he gets right up there close with the footwork. Antoine Carr, an outstanding defender. The reach and poke in the face, always a foul.
Malone has 2, Ostertag has 2, Foster has 2, and now Carr with 2 personals. Drexler lost it on his way to the basket. Here comes Anderson. 2-on-1. Anderson right at the basket and came up short. Batted away and then fouled. Foul is on Anderson.
Clyde is passing up jumpers. He's trying to get to the hoop. He hasn't taken very many free throws in this series, just 2 at the very end of game 3. He's making a concerted effort to try to get to the line, but if you open it up, that'll create the space for Hakeem inside.
That foul was on Brian Russell, his first. Olajuwon, fall away, doesn't get the bounce. Carr. And back comes Sadale Threes. 3, Eddie Johnson, Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, and Kevin Willis on the floor for the Rockets.
Now this is the side of the floor that Olajuwon doesn't like to work from the most, so he usually ends up giving it up. 8 on the shot clock.
Terrible pass.
Russell. Brian Russell with his first basket of the day. 32-27.